Australian racer Daniel Ricciardo has been having a tough year so far with all the drama surrounding his next move, and now it looks like just one more thing has been added to the list. In this video, we'll discuss how Daniel Ricciardo became livid with a rogue photographer after a pit lane near miss, and whether the rumors about him joining Mercedes are true or not. So let's dig right in. First up, what happened at the track? With a season that's already become quite frustrating for the Australian driver, Daniel Ricciardo, it looks like lately, just can't catch a break. During the race at Monza, he vented his annoyance and sheer frustration on the team radio when a bunch of photographers showed up, way too near his line of sight. The photographers seemed to have no regard for the risks they were taking and were seen in pit lane on the Monza track during a free race practice session at the Italian Grand Prix. Ricciardo seemed quite heated as he burst into the radio and called the photographers as he swerved onto the turn. He seemed to calm down a moment later when he jokingly claimed that he'd be happy to hit one of the photographers. As we all realize there, that's classic Daniel humor, always joking with the team and the press with that $1 million smile. Up next, the rogue photographer. One of the photographers was even captured on Ricciardo's onboard camera and is seen casually walking from the pit wall to the inner lane, and wait for it, directly onto the path of his MCL36 just to get that perfect shot. While one could argue he's just doing his job, photographers also need to be mindful of the fact there's no point in putting themselves and the drivers in danger with the risk of being that close to some of the fastest cars we've ever seen. Do they not realize it's called a race? And the view from behind also showed that a number of the other photographers needed to be physically held back by one of the McLaren staff members as Ricciardo revered past them from the fast lane. It just goes to show the intensity of all that's going on beyond the race cars and their drivers. Since these fast cars can maintain speeds going all the way up to 60 kilometers per hour through pit lane, it can definitely be considered highly dangerous just to be casually strolling in front of one. Seriously, what was the photographer thinking? Moving on to the notorious team radios. Ricciardo started fourth on the track, currently his season best, after a bunch of penalties were slapped onto Red Bull's duo Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez, as well as Lewis Hamilton from Mercedes and Ferrari's Carlos Sainz. Unfortunately, even starting at his season best fourth position wasn't enough to save him from the disaster that struck Monza, with the whole oil leak fiasco. Regarding the photographer incident, it looks like Ricciardo, who's known for his wide beaming smile and easygoing nature outside of the car, is clearly a different beast altogether inside of it, as he raged at the photographers for getting in his way. But we don't really blame him in the scenario either, since everyone can get frustrated in the heat of the moment, no? Formula One drivers are known to vent their frustration and annoyance on their team radios, which gives us the ultimate unfiltered access to their live reactions as they respond to the events unfolding around them. Sometimes this means moments of anger, as we saw with Ricciardo's reaction, but mostly we get a whiff of the drivers and the team joking around and getting into some lighthearted banter as well, following up with Ricciardo's unfortunate season. While the 33-year-old's ominous threat of happily running over the photographer appears to be tongue-in-cheek, it does give us an insight into what Formula One drivers generally experience while in the cockpit. Whether it's a practice session or the actual race, both are equally important in deciding the fate of their weekends. The Perth native seems to be having a rough season so far, with McLaren all but firing him in the last few weeks due to his unfortunate performance over the last year and a half. The final nail in the coffin was the oil leak at Monza, which put an end to his race with only 6 laps to go. We're sure Ricciardo was absolutely gutted. The race was eventually taken by storm by Red Bull's Max Verstappen, who seems to be the favorite for this year's championship. The young man has won a number of podiums and seems all set to race his way to the top. What's more, this isn't the first time photographers have been threatened, but this isn't the first time that a threat has been made on the Formula One track, as only earlier this month, sports photographer Mark Thompson was allegedly assaulted at the Hungarian Grand Prix by an irate security guard. Thompson chose to upload 2 photos to his Twitter account, with the first picture showing an angry guard squaring up to the photographer, who was clearly shown to be wearing an official press bib. The photo was titled with the caption, "The friendly face of F1 trackside security, hungry style," with the hashtags thugs. Sounds like things really took a turn for the worst. The second picture then showed Thompson with his head to the side as if he'd received a blow to his face, and the angry security guard was still there, right by his side. And the photo was captioned as part 2 of the Hungarian trackside security, with the addition of a slap across the face. Thompson also drew attention to his cut lip via the caption, alleging that the guard slapped him in anger and he was doing his job. Twitter users outraged on Thompson's behalf after seeing the pictures, which indeed showed a cut lip with blood seeping out. The comments started adding up, with Formula One pundit Karan Chandhok writing to ask if the photographer was okay. Let's discuss what needs to be done. Ricciardo's incident may just be a verbal and understandably frustrated one, but we guess care needs to be implemented from both sides of the track. Race drivers can perhaps tone down the frustration they feel and perhaps not take it out on trackside photographers. At the same time, sports photographers know they entered into a somewhat risky profession, but safety guidelines always need to be put first in order do to avoid unfortunate circumstances. Hey, we could all be a little more careful in our lives, right? Now, McLaren replaces Ricciardo with Piastri. Daniel Ricciardo's future in Formula One is the talk of the town at the moment, and everyone wants in on it. He lost his seat at McLaren for the 2023 season to fellow Australian Oscar Piastri. The McLaren race team has signed the 2021 FIA Formula 2 champion on a multi-year contract to partner up with Lando Norris. While we're excited to see how the two young guns will pair up for future races, we're still a little bummed out for Ricciardo, who's going through a seemingly rough patch. With that update, Ricciardo has unfortunately been backed up in a tough spot where he faces a future that even he isn't sure of. If there's one thing that's pretty obvious as of now, is the fact that this Australian looked pretty jaded in the paddock. Let's talk about the rumors. It is during this entire debacle that rumors surfaced of supposed talks between Daniel Ricciardo and top team Mercedes for a reserve driver slot for next season of F1. While that would essentially mean that Ricciardo would find himself off the grid for 2023 season, maybe that's just what the driver needs at the moment. He's been through a lot during his time with McLaren in the last year and a half, and it's really beginning to show. His trademark smile is still there, but it looks a bit more labored than before. Not a lot of fans have fully grasped the extent of the situation that Ricciardo finds himself in right now, and how the last 18 months or so have completely turned his career upside down. Ricciardo's future with McLaren. Before we forget, the start of 2021 gave us a different picture of Ricciardo altogether. He was known as this huge signing for McLaren, and that they had sort of swooped in and gotten him from Renault, and the future couldn't look brighter. He joined the McLaren team after an impressive season in 2020, scoring multiple podiums and even beating McLaren's own drivers Lando Norris and Carlos Sainz in the championship. But it looks like since joining McLaren, everything has just come crashing down for him. He's been outdriven by his own teammate Norris and made to look like a bad driver who just suddenly lost his form for no apparent reason. Meanwhile, during all of this, the media frenzy hasn't exactly been kind either, and it seems like his confidence has been lost when out on the track. And that's a wrap for this video. Do you have any thoughts about Daniel Ricciardo's mini meltdown at the paparazzi? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.